That's what you said last time and then left.
And I had to leave,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So 5:30, so reserved to last. So we'll move public comment at the end of the agenda if there's no, you have a problem with that, right?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. We'll move it to 6:55. And any problem with the agenda? Looks good to you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, then I guess
Okay.
we are.
So
open.
for,
Yes, ma'am.
for A, I have not gotten anything from, back from Sergeant Spielman, so we'll just have to put that off.
Which one was that?
These are ones that we discussed at the last meeting, and she said she would go back and see what, the department would agree to.
Yeah, because the whole group was a rehash.
Right,
The,
yeah.
did we
But
talk
then
about 413? We did talk about rapid response and deployment?
No, down to 411, I think. That
Four,
was
is that a,
No, I think we did 412 was done. We did
412
412.
was done?
Yeah.
413, my
Which
notes
one
say
are you
you
looking
talked
at?
about
You
it.
looked
I'm looking at the old agenda compared to the new agenda.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean,
413 you talked about.
are you
Yeah, we did.
a little bit or not too much?
Terry talked about 413.3,
well, you know what, I'm
second
trying to find my
paragraph,
numbers at 413.
should take immediate action. You talked about,
Yeah, actually.
Should and shall,
We were gonna
yeah.
change some things.
yeah,
Also, because she's not here, we're
you
waiting.
talked about it.
We're waiting for her answer on that. Is that?
Right,
Okay.
for all of these. I think there were some where she said, oh, I have no problem. Said,
I gotta go back to the.
I have to go back.
To the chief.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten those back yet. This was just done in anticipation.
Yeah, the chief just got back.
So we don't need to do those again.
So, no. So these will be held
All the
off
way
till
down
next time.
to-
So we get down to 411.
411.
Right, which
We
is in
didn't
your,
do 411?
no, we skipped that.
But before we go, did you have? You're confident that all the questions that you had on 200, 409, 14, and 413 have been put forward?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's good, because that way we don't.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
she was just, there were 2 or 3 of them at least that she was gonna change.
Yeah.
All 4 of these. Yeah, according to my notes.
Yep. So,
Okay, so then
411.
411 is left over from July 10th.
I gotta look into my 300 pounds of paperwork. It's crazy.
I know. And
I need to figure
Of
out.
course, I
what
didn't bring
I
this
can't
one.
throw stuff away, because then you say you have it in your packet, and I'm like, oh, which one? So 410 is cite and release policy.
Uh-huh.
And this has to do with minor infractions and stuff like that. Things that are non-violent misdemeanors as well.
It's 411.
411. Did you have any questions on Terry?
Basically,
I know I have it somewhere, let me find it.
I don't have any changes, but I just had a couple of things.
Oh, it's July 10th, this one. Okay, 411, thank you. And thank you to Maritza for going through the shoot show stuff. It's, I'm sure she's loving it.
Well, since our complaint caseload is down, there's time for her to do that, so.
Right, where's my question? I have 2 questions.
One thing we should note though, and that is, the shall shoulds. If you look at the policy, General Order C10, which is after this, everything is a shall.
On C10, but not,
It's like right after that in the,
Yeah.
everything that's marked yellow, I don't know if you have the yellow marking or not. Maybe there's a couple of should, but mostly shalls. And on the newer one, there's.
but that's, but an example of why it's a good one is because those offenses that are punishable as either a misdemeanor or a felony shall be handled as felonies. This is different. It's making an exception for misdemeanors and felonies and making a separation of how they're treated. This one here in definitions talks about that they both are handled the same. I mean, so this is so there's some good changes here from C10.
Yeah, there are. I have to say again, I really looked at it, I didn't really have that many problems, given what we're kind of a look we're having about should versus shall. And,
Okay, so even though there are more shoulds in 411, you feel you don't have a problem with them?
I feel like, given the definition of should,
Uh-huh,
which has changed, right, changed from the old policy, because under the old policy, it was more of a permissive thing.
mm-hmm,
Under the newer policy, it's more of a mandatory unless you
right,
prove differently.
right.
But I did have one question, I don't know how you get there, because I'm not gonna be here to follow up, but,
We'll ask you for
the,
it.
Yeah, we'll try and answer for you.
My question would be on the cite and release,
Mhm.
You're with me. Go ahead. I think we're in the same place. Go ahead.
is how it would relate to something like the June 20th council meeting, where, I was part of the committee that did our report and the follow-up and talked to Sergeant Ross and others that participated and went through all the policies and all that. We put in a recommendation, but they kind of stiffed us because of the legal case that was going on. And that's over now. Now we should ask them to report.
Mm-hmm.
But point is being on the side and release. What we were told by Sergeant Ross, who was I would call him the incident commander that night, is that he couldn't reasonably cite and release the folks that they actually detained, went to jail, and caused the problems. And he said there's a whole thing where you have to book them, and then you have to, after they get booked in jail, then you have to sign, it's
411.3.2.
yeah, some way to release them. There's a formal paperwork you've got to do to release them. And so it would seem like to me that, and I see they have a release by citation, I don't know if that's new or not, but it would seem like to me that there should be, under certain circumstances, a way to detain the person at the site and either issue them a citation and release them there versus, take them to jail. Depends on the circumstance. That's a judgment call. I'm just wondering if this policy would allow that and simplify the process. You know what I mean?
But
That's really the question.
I think that they're making the exception of release after booking, saying that it might not be feasible or desirable. So let me put this example to you. If you have 100 people and you have 10 police officers are responding and are making sure that they're doing crowd management
Right.
and crowd control.
Right.
Crowd management is I would call it crowd management. And then they are detaining people and they're going to cite them. It's reasonable to believe that if you cite and release this person, they might go back into the melee and go back into the group of the people that are causing the problem.
It's possible.
It might be.
They'd have to detain them for a bit.
Yeah, it might not be reasonable that if you have 10 people, 100 people,
Yeah.
that you cannot have 2-3 people doing set and release while everything is going on and 100 people continue to
Right.
create energy.
I understand
But if you
that.
put them in a packy wagon and you send them over to booking, you take them away from the possibility of creating
Yeah.
more problems. And I think that's why they say
understand
that.
was a tough situation, but on the other side of the coin is it seems like there should be a way to do something like that without going through taking them to jail, booking them, and then essentially releasing it. So, but that would be a judgment call.
But that happens in all First Amendments, like First Amendment demonstrations. So I've been either cited or released, or I've been in a position in which they took all of us during the First Amendment demonstrations for ACT UP into a wagon, right? So and then they release you after it. The other question is, if you have a situation in which there's a bunch of people, in my opinion, this works, because if you take 10, 20 people out of that, 30 people creating a higher level of intensity, do you deflate? Is citing and booking, and I don't know if you've ever been cited and released, but in some situations in which there's a misdemeanor, they'll take your ID, they'll take a picture of the ID, they'll give you a citation, they'll take a picture of you. So all that takes place. So it's not here, but if you were to ask a police officer to tell you, they take a picture of your ID, they write your information, they write your citation, you have to read it, they give you a copy, and they'll take a picture of you.
Yeah.
So all that has to happen in order to have a cite and release.
Right.
So how can you do all this when something's going crazy and is using a cite and a booking and then releasing? Could that be considered in a way to de-escalate that crowd? So to me, it's, because they're going to do some kind of quasi-booking. They're doing a quasi-booking. If they're taking a picture of you, getting information, doing all that stuff, this is not like a jaywalk, right? You're jaywalking and give you, they detain you, and then they give you a citation, and then you're free to go, right? It's not the same thing as when you are in a group of people demonstrating, and because of the energy and that kind of like mass hysteria that can be caused, whether taking individuals out of there, if it's done in a manner which is properly, the detention is done properly, the people are, there's a timeline for the release to get people out, whether it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I realized that was a tough call, but there were only a couple of people really acting out. The rest were sort of intimidating, but didn't do anything. So they really only dealt with a couple of people. But anyway, I thought I'd raise a question.
Does it make a difference to a neighbor? Does it make a difference to an elderly person who goes to city council? Does it make a difference to a mother and a child as a city council, or an elderly person, whether somebody is actually violent, somebody is inciting and being negative as well? Does that make a difference in terms of what they have to walk through to get to the cars of the city council? I don't think so. And I think that if the only way to get that energy to deflate is to put people out of that, and I think the concern with this demonstration, and I was there. Were you there, Kathy?
Which one? I'm sorry.
For this demonstration, June 22nd demonstration.
June 20th?
At
Longfellow?
At Longfellow, big, and I was there. I actually walked Susan Waingraff when City Council was leaving, and I walked and I talked to Sergeant Ross, and I can tell you that as I was leaving, there were people that were like there was so much anxiety because of the energy, and they're walking to the cars, and this is a dark neighborhood.
Yeah,
that's a very dark neighborhood.
Right.
So it's taking away the discretion to use it.
Well, I wasn't suggesting taking away anything. I was just having them be able to have the option, and having it be okay to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay
Does
with
it
the policy as written.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and that was, I had put a question mark on that. Because I wanted to hear from them more.
Right.
What made it unfeasible and what made it not desirable.
Right.
And so that's it. That's still we can approve it, and they can still have the sergeant tell us what makes it that way. What are the circumstances?
I don't know how you're going to do the follow up on this, but as far as the narrative,
we'll have a notation that says, "Can you talk to us on the record? What is it that makes it not feasible or less desirable?"
Yeah.
Because that might come up in the full commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we'll have an answer on the record from her.
Okay.
Okay.
And hopefully it's close to my speech.
Okay.
Or completely different. So,
Okay.
411, cite and release.
What are we doing now?
We're doing,
Okay, on to new business.
Tactical rifle operator program.
349.
Sheesh.
Yeah, 349.
See?
349.
See what you do, Miss
Mhm.
Lee?
Okay, good.
3 pounds on the floor, 10 to go.
Well.
And Miss Lee, is this a new one? I think this is,
No,
that's FO6.
yes.
Is this, question on it, does it only apply to the SRT or is it others? You know? I didn't see that. They were just talking about it in general.
I thought it was
But
just,
it felt like it was more of an SRT thing. Because
I
they're issued rifles and they.
it's also patrol teams though, isn't it? I mean, or did they,
It could
see,
be,
they
I
took
don't
that
know.
away.
Maybe it's in general, I don't know.
It's to
Well-
patrol is from procedures.
Regardless, these rifles, the tactical rifles can only be used by the tactical rifle operators.
Right, but that, I guess that could be any officer who was trained.
Right.
So I think that the thing here, is tactical rifles are weapons which have detachable box magazines. Click.
I understand.
Not like
I had one of those when I was in the army.
You have to.
Brings back bad memories,
Mm.
but,
Did you have one?
huh?
They had those in 1923.
Yeah, they even then.
George.
So they had a bayonet, but we had to qualify.
But you know,
them.
we trained on those ones that were World War II ones.
The
They were
wood one,
just
the
going
rifle,
in with
the
M16.
caliber 20, whatever it was, right? The big wooden one.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
we all
yeah,
had to
that was
qualify on.
good. But before we went into, Vietnam, it was
He's
like
only
they
10 years
issued
older than I
those.
am. Kathy, it's that much the reference.
Anyway,
Or 20.
I have more questions on this than issues too, so it's like, I don't know how you wanna handle that, but.
Just, I
What are the
would like,
questions?
I'm writing your questions down and we'll ask,
So I'm wondering, I'm down in, 349.4.
okay,
They're talking about employees who purchase their own tactical rifles.
mm-hmm,
And I'm presuming these would have to be the same model, make, and everything is down there in 349.5.
That's right.
But I don't know if that's true.
That's right. Those are the
There's 2 models. And
because it
that's
says are the approved models. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can you
it's, I think when it says must adhere to this policy and the procedures, and then they specify which ones
and the
are
and the-
approved, I read that as saying you can only use these approved ones.
And in addition to that, they cannot buy their own ammunition. The ammunition has to be issued
Right.
by the department.
Right. I saw
But
that.
I know what
Yeah.
what the Colt Ellis 6940 looks like. That's the one I was
And
trained on.
you know, back, I'm on rifles now, down
Mhm.
below, says 349.5. Are those semi-automatic or are they automatic?
No, they have 30 rounds.
Magazine.
They're not rapid fire, so they're not.
So they're semi.
They are semi. So it's that I think it's like 0.5 to 1 second delay. They're not machine guns. It's not an M16. It's not a
Cause
Alpha
I had a
or
little
Bravo.
switch on mine, if you went to automatic, it would just keep going.
But that's illegal.
Yeah, well, we were illegal being on somebody else's country. But,
Well.
anyway, that answered my question, if they're semi-automatic, that's one thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's allowable for them to buy their own. I mean, I don't know whether that's because they don't have enough of them, or.
Yeah,
but
I
they-
just presume people that were issued them keep them, and they wanted to have their own rather than trade them in on something that's been used by somebody else or something.
But no, because I think that the ones that are issued by the department are
Right.
issued by the department. This
And
is
they-
for
they
people
don't
that
own
wanna,
them.
that wanna use it, they wanna buy them and use them during performance, during patrol. So I mean, this is, I wanna
Right,
buy
but
my
I'm
own.
saying, otherwise, if they didn't buy their own, they would get issued a department one.
Right.
Or whether
They'd
they're,
have to check in, and then they might not get the same one back or something. That's what I presume.
oh, so I mean, will they take better care of their own weapon
Yeah, I mean,
than
it's like
the
it
weapon?
becomes part of your, being.
So, well, in the city of Berkeley, the city of Berkeley allows for the police officer to either have an issued weapon, right, or
Right.
not.
Right.
Or they can have their own personal weapon. I don't know if that's true. I know in
I
Seattle,
don't know
the
about the
Seattle,
handgun, but this one,
the Seattle Police Department, all duty weapons are issued because there's a model, it's registered, and everything else. But the munition, I mean, to me, it's like, if the specs are the same, I guess it's not dinged or stuff like that. I walked past a car the other day and you can see them. That this rifle is located in between the two seats in every single car, and
Right.
it's right there. It's right there. The shotguns are in the trunk, I think, but you can see the gun standing up, and you can see the magazine pointing out towards
Oh, you can.
So it's
So it's not a shotgun, it's one of these rifles.
it's not a shotgun. I mean, I saw it yesterday at City Council in the car.
Yeah,
So they have them.
okay.
I mean, and they'll leave them in the car too.
Yeah.
I don't, just going on with questions, I mean, I guess that answered my question, but, just going on with questions, on page 2 there, accessories, number 3, I don't know what that is. What's a rail system, you know? Is that something that keeps like a sniper uses or something?
Well, let's Google it. It's that easy to Google. That's why the goddess invented Google. Let's see.
Accessory rail system.
No, it's a rail.
For rifles.
Yeah. Well, for any gun.
Well, yeah, I don't know, it may not apply to handgun.
Whoa. I guess you don't have your glasses on. But even if you do, you type the wrong thing. Rail systems for air rifles. Wow. Adding an aftermarket handguard or free float rail is the first step to accessorizing your AR-15 rifle.
It's the what rail?
Is the first step to accessorizing your AR-15 rifle. That's what it looks like.
Is there a picture?
Whoa. Yeah, there's a picture, but it's hold on. So that's what the rail is. And if you
Yeah, I don't exactly understand what it does, but.
Here's Wikipedia. Wikipedia.
Oh, there you go, that's better.
Rail systems on firearms are straight mounting brackets, usually made of strips of metal or polymer, on the gun's receiver, hand guard, or fore-end stock to allow sliding/variable position attachment of
Lighting what?
sliding and then /variable position attachment of optical sights and accessories such as tactical lights, laser sights.
Oh, I see, it's like a gizmo,
For
you snap
grips.
things in.
You-
So
Right.
because that metal thing, because
Yeah.
I think
It's
that's
got
what,
little holes in it.
so that's what the rail looks like.
Yeah, okay.
So it has a lot of things to be clicked on it.
That
So you
makes
can put a
sense.
rail on it, then you can put stuff on it.
Right,
Hmm.
okay.
Well, that's what it means.
It's an air gun?
Learn something every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the accessory rail system is to put the optic sighting device in it, or lights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or a sling. Funky.
And do you know, if they're issued if they have their own, well, let's take it back. If they're issued a rifle, do they have to check it in every time, or can they take it with them?
No, it says here, when not in use, the TRO shall securely store their tactical rifle in issued carry case within an authorized location of the public safety building. That's
Okay,
the
so
only place that should have it. It says how to put it in, and it says how it's supposed to be storage in cars and trucks. So it makes sense on the SUV, what I saw on the SUV.
Yeah, some of that, but if it's your own personal, rifle, I'm not sure if that's the case. They can buy one, go keep it and.
Well, they can buy a weapon, they're not illegal. They
Yeah,
can buy their own, but they
checking it in, or.
they don't have to. You can buy your, you
So
can buy your own
have-
gun at home.
You just bring it to work.
You cannot use it at work.
No,
if you
349.4, employees
Yeah.
who purchase their own tactical rifles for on-duty use must adhere to this
That's right, so they
policies
have to keep it here.
and the procedures.
Yeah, but I thought you meant that they can buy another one. They can buy one they can use at work, and they can buy another one at home.
Oh, yeah, no,
Sure.
I meant, if they bought one for work, they'd have to apply all the policies at work. They'd have
Well,
to
there's an
check it
exception
in.
here, right?
Where's there an
They were
exception?
using it.
A TRO may temporarily store his or her tactical rifle
Where are you?
in a, 349.7.1.
Yeah.
The TRO may temporarily store his or tactical rifle in a location other than the PSB, which is a public safety building,
Right.
to facilitate training or other official duty, provided all reasonable safety and security precautions are taken during transportation and storage.
Well, that would be any rifle, whether it's department issued or an employee owned.
So actually, what I was thinking about in that particular A there is at a location other than the PSB.
Temporarily.
Yeah, but I don't know what that means. So I was just gonna ask the police departments, like, well, how many people have their weapons, keep their weapons, don't check them in for, depending on what temporarily means. That could mean a week or.
So the question is, what does temporarily mean? What are the standards and guidelines for temporarily
Yeah.
store? A temporary storing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's,
And do
who do you notify, right? There's no duty notification
do
here to.
rifle owners check them in like city issued rifles? You have to check them.
If they're gonna use them on duty, that serial number gets cataloged. Because the only way they can get bullets for that is through requisition. They cannot bring their own bullets.
Yeah, they can have
They have to
their own
requisition for them.
Right, yeah, I understand. Okay, well, that would be my question, and then on, and then on 349.9, third paragraph, defective parts or parts needing replacement will be the financial responsibility of the weapon's owner. So I presume that means if you own your own weapon, right?
Where are you at?
349.9.
Third paragraph.
Modifications, third paragraph.
And then it goes on to say that the department shall be responsible for installation of replacement parts and blah, 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 outside of the factory or factory service provider. I was just wondering how that worked. And
I think
it
I'm
sounds
making-
like the individual would be responsible for oil maintenance and all that, but if you wanted, it says installation of replace, so it sounds like the department would maintain it, cost-wise.
I think it's not very specific. I'm reading it now like it's two different things, right? Because it says, a TRO shall not make or facilitate unauthorized modifications, maintenance, or repair of a tactical rifle. But then it says, this is what you have to do if you wanna modify it. defective parts or parts needing replacement will be financial responsibility of the weapons owner.
Right.
And I think what I mean that is, the department owns the rifle, the department assumes the responsibility for the repairs and the parts. If you own the rifle, you assume responsibility and repairs. But if, but even if you
But
do
the
that,
last
it has to
sentence
be, it has to be authorized.
Yeah, but even the last sentence, it says that the department armor shall be responsible for the installation of replacement parts outside of factory, blah, blah, blah. So I just wondered if that was on individuals' rifles also.
I think so. I think it means that any replacement parts have to be done by the department armorers. That's how I read it.
Yeah,
And it's a
that's
shawl.
what the language says.
It's a shawl.
Yeah.
So that means that if your weapon breaks, you know, you need to have authorization to repair it.
Yeah, so
And the repair
maybe
has to be
the
done
department is
in-house.
gonna be, well, how does that work? But just so we understood it.
Yeah, so, yeah, that makes sense. So the question to them is like, what does that look like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's more like, how does that work if you have an
Mm-hmm.
owner's weapon? If the owner buys a weapon.
Yeah, if you don't have a weapon and you don't have a serial number attached to every single part to the serial number of the weapon, how do you administer it?
Yeah.
And how do you make it compliant?
Right.
I broke a little piece, I can replace it myself. I don't have to tell you. I mean, how is that compliance triggered? How does that look like? You
Yeah.
replace a part, you didn't tell me? I mean, you have to
Well,
ask for permission?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
it sounded like to me they bring it in and the armor's gonna replace it. That's
but
what
you
it
gotta
sounded
pay
like.
for it.
Yeah.
if
you-
it's yours.
You have to pay for it. Well, I don't know about that.
But what about if you have 10 parts on that little part at home and you just change it yourself? How is it compliant? How is the compliance made obligatory? They're gonna say it's an owner's
Through the
system.
order, through this order. You have to follow all the procedures.
Yeah, but you can order stuff like this in the internet, and you can do it from home.
Then you're in
But-
violation,
Of the
conceivably
policy,
you're in
but-
violation of the policy.
but
That's
you
what I
have to-
mean by the order.
But I mean, how do you, so I mean, they said to us, but there's only one acceptable purveyor for parts for these weapons, and so we track who that purveyor is, because the 14th Amendment, allows you to have the privacy for you to buy it in or whatever you want. I mean, they don't have
Right.
a reasonable,
But- yeah, but-
reason to look into your email at home
We're,
to see what you buy.
we're talking about what you're buying for use on duty.
Yeah, but you can buy parts for any, I have guns.
Okay,
You can buy parts for any gun in any website in
sure.
the internet from home.
Okay,
So if I have one piece that's broken and I can go on the internet and buy 5 pieces, I don't have to tell you. Maybe I can replace that part. So what's accountability level to make sure that you're only buying parts through the department? I mean, and it's just another system. Parts
I
don't
guess
have a
I'm-
serial number.
I guess I'm not understanding your question. Is your point that an officer could modify his or her own
Repair.
rifle
We're on
without repair, without the department knowing?
Sure.
Well, then they're out of policy.
I
Right.
understand that. You know.
Okay, so your question is, how is that enforced?
No, see, how is this accountability work? I mean,
Okay. Okay.
when it has some, right? If the weapon is purchased by you and it's your weapon, I mean, it's like, I guess the answer for them would be, well, if your weapon is not operational because it's broken, then you still have it, but you can. And if you keep it in the public safety building and you can only repair it there, I mean, right? So, I mean, I guess it obligates
Either
it,
they
right?
repair it or they issue them another one.
Until that gets
For a
repaired.
piece
So,
of weapon.
so
Right.
I think it might be an honor system. There's no way to, it's an honor system with these people who say, hey,
Mhm.
got it, that's the
Right.
rule, right?
Right,
Anyway, I didn't have any specific worded things, there were more questions about that, just so I
about
understood
operational,
Me too.
okay,
and see if it made sense to us.
okay.
Well, there you go, on process, you know, this is interesting. That's really interesting. Well, that's for the FTAU. Well, it says, you know, it's interesting because it seems here that I think if you keep on reading,
Where are you?
348.5, program administration, it seems to me that it's not automatic that somebody gets TRO.
Right,
I-
you have to qualify.
Well, and not only that, but you have, you have to qualify in the weapon system.
And then you have to apply, and you
and
have
then
to be
you have- yeah.
recommended. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
And then
A
you
whole
have to,
process. Appears to be a whole process,
yeah,
which is good.
because it says a review of the applicant's personal file for sustaining complaints involving improper use of force, poor judgment, dishonesty, or mistreatment of equipment. So that goes, so maybe that's the answer, as it relates to how do you make sure that the person is not gonna fix it or
Right,
well,
because
there's
they've
a rigid
gone
system,
through
yeah.
a system, a rigorous vetting.
But it's not clear at the beginning that, you really have to go through this process before you actually get the ability to either get issued one or be able to buy your own. So I guess the process in selection and training, it's after but it makes sense now, it's here.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you never had one and you want a new one and you haven't had one for a while, you have to go through the same process again. So I think it's robust. Do you still want that a question answer?
Do what?
You still want the question answer?
I think it would be good just to ask them so that they could explain it so everybody understood.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
I don't have anything on it.
Because, you're messing with weapons here, so,
A big weapon.
yeah.
That's not a little one. It's an R-15, R-15 are serious business. Me, I only have my grandmother's 22, Cause it fits in my
Okay.
purse. It's a little one, 2-shooter. It's called a P2 shooter.
Okay.
My grandmother had a 2-bullet P-shooter.
351. Second
It worked for her.
Second response.
Keep the husband in line, Christine.
Okay.
Second response.
Yeah, I only had a few things on this, and my first question was, sort of, what's the point of the need here? It sounded like the council was responding to one of the protests or something.
No, this
So
is
they're citing
noisy parties,
council.
not protests.
This is noisy parties, yeah.
Noisy parties.
The what?
Noisy parties, mostly social events, not
Yeah.
protests.
You know the one that got
And
at your
so-
house about 6 months ago, the big party you
Yeah,
had
yeah.
in the back? I could hear it in my house, Terry, I'm just telling you.
So they were getting a lot of complaints, I presume.
Well, they have to have a way to
Yes.
deal with it, right?
And I'm just wondering
Yes.
what the heck they did before, the cops did before, because they had to manage those things, and so I'm just wondering if this is way off of what they did, or they kind of, just put in their process and put it in writing, or if they, that's just an informational thing. I mean, you don't really have to ask that, I guess.
Yeah, my sense is that this was sort of an administrative way to deal with it because I'm kind of guessing, but it's an educated guess that the penal code wasn't quite adequate.
Yeah.
What are you going to cite people
Well,
for?
definitely, it
so
becomes sort of posting and noticing people. I mean, that's what this whole thing is about.
that's what it's about.
process.
It's about putting groups on notice
Yeah.
that you've had
Before,
a
maybe
party
they
that,
just used to go break up the party or something.
and maybe that didn't work, or, maybe it didn't work to just go break up the party. Then they'd have a party the next weekend as well. And so there had to be a way, believe this was a response to
Oh, God.
taking
So
care
this
of
must
that.
be what's codified or something, because it sounds like kind of a city attorney kind of
Exactly.
writing in here.
Yes,
Because it's so
'cause
specific about the process.
13, yes, it is. It's in Berkeley Municipal Code. It's in the Berkeley Municipal
So
Code.
this is probably the same thing.
And this is largely taking that training and information bulletin and putting in the Lexipol format.
Well, I guess that's interesting, because, You know, the trigger is a little bit, the trigger is interesting here. So there is a noise decibel ordinance as well, which is not here. I know there's a noise decibel as well in the city of Berkeley, that has like a curfew. You and I hear the folks playing jazz and the guitar sometimes at night, right? It's down, it's on Walker Canyon, it's that corner house. And you can hear it on a Sunday by 8 o'clock, they're still playing guitar and jazz, right? So there's a noise level ordinance that says that one time or the other they need to stop. But I mean, it's interesting because I have events at my house and it literally says here, a substantial disturbance of the quiet enjoyment of private or public property. So if you have 5 out of the 10 people that are laugh loud, then that could constitute a substantial disturbance of the quiet enjoyment of your private property.
But if there's only 9 people that are really loud, you're still.
That's right. That's right. That's I think it's a way for them to say no public urination, no alcohol to minors, no fights, no disturbance of the peace, no littering. I think it's a way for them to say, you know, if you're having a get-together in a neighborhood, you have to be respectful of your neighbors as you comport yourself, which makes a lot of sense. I'm just gonna have to. I didn't know about this. I knew there was a noise decibel thing, and I thought it comes through the radio and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna have to tell those politicians, you know, shh.
You know,
keep it down.
my sense is if you're having a party and it's just loud, and a neighbor calls the cop will come to your house and say, hey, can you keep it down?
Yeah.
They're not gonna cite you under this.
But
I think if
but they
people
catalog
start
it.
rolling out of your house, urinating in the streets, you know, trashing, breaking bottles, then you might be subject
That was
to
the old
this.
pro temp, not the new one. You know, it makes sense, but I think don't they catalog it if they answer to the call? I mean, if they answer the call, it's recorded. It has to be recorded. So even if they come to your house and tell you simmer down, it starts the clock. Because they post it.
Yeah, they can.
They go into the ages route
When the
system.
police intervenes,
Yeah.
a notice must be prominently posted.
I mean, there was a lot of process here, but it seemed like it was
Yes.
a way to put people on notice, calm them down,
Mhm.
and if there's repeat offenses, a way to track it and
Yep.
jack up the fine.
Well,
Right.
$2,500.
So you can't do it again within another 120 days.
Well, I know every 3 months I'm gonna have a party.
Right, exactly.
I had one specific question.
Okay, what's your question?
First page, the last paragraph, says, the first sentence, it says, the ordinance explicitly prohibits targeted enforcement against student housing. That's an interesting notion, but my specific question was, what's student housing? Are they talking about
UC
on the
Berkeley.
campus?
Yeah.
Should it be apartment building
No,
by
it's-
me that with a bunch of students?
It becomes a jurisdiction of UC Berkeley. Remember we had all those frat parties? That
So
were all those
student
problems.
housing is defined somewhere as, you see, you know, there's a lot of places around the campus that.
But those are the private buildings that could house students.
So this is
it-
UCB,
It's not the same thing.
Student housing.
Well-
If you're in university, student housing means college-owned
Yeah.
housing which students are in. Student housing constitutes owned by the college, not an apartment complex that has.
I
those
think
would be
Students
under
are there.
frats
jurisdiction
and,
of
well, I think the
campus
dorms might be
police.
UC property, but the frats and sororities, by and large, are privately owned by the, yeah.
That's called student housing?
But that's student housing as well.
I think that's, I know that's included under here.
Yeah.
Because-
Because we had
Yeah,
this
I was
problem
wondering
4 years ago.
If it applied to other housing where mostly were occupied by students, there's a lot of apartments.
Private properties are not a frat owned by the UC Berkeley. It's not, doesn't constitute, because that's a private owned. That's under rent control, that's under tenant rights and laws.
You know, the reason this might be in here is because when this was being developed, there could have been claims that you are targeting frats and sororities.
Right.
And so
I'm
they just
sure,
wanted to
yeah.
say,
But didn't we have that problem 5 years ago? Remember when all those parties were happening in UC Berkeley, and they had the sexual harassment claims as well? Well, they had not the claims. We had the accusations of sexual harassment against young women in fraternities in Berkeley. That was 5 years ago. There was a lot of response by UC Berkeley, and the Berkeley Police Department got roped in as in mutual response and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. I'll keep it down from now on.
I mean, that's all I had on it.
Okay. Can we consider this approved? Can
Yeah.
we consider this approved? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the postings are for when you close the streets, you know? When you close the streets for a street party,
Right.
I mean, and you have to post it and stuff like that, and then,
Right.
I mean, even then, is it too noisy, too loud, and are people misbehaving? 419, which is a good one. We talk about this all the time.
Who sweet. Oh, field training. Okay.
Yeah, FTO program. I had questions as well on this one, Ms. Lee. I wanted to know, you mind if I start?
Go ahead, I have a couple.
I wanted to know why it went from 4 years to 3 years in terms of the minimum years of patrol experience. And it says 2 of which shall be with its department, and that's a little problematic to me. So you went from 4 years to 2 years. So 2 years of patrol could have been in another city, and then only 1 year in the city. And if you think about it, police officers that are in the training mode are out of the training mode at a year's time. So you're telling me that if you had 2 years as a police officer in Chacamaca, Tennessee, and you came here for a year in Berkeley, that after that year you're eligible to be in the FTO program. That's what it says.
3 years, minimum
2
3
of
years.
which will be with this department.
This department. 2 in BPD.
I know, but that means that why go from 4 to 3? Why is that? I have concerns about that. I think, is it because they have not enough people to train? Because of
Yeah,
so is
I
that
don't
a
know.
trigger? Is that a trigger thing? I mean, is a 3-year experience enough to be an FTO training program, or if 4 years is enough for someone who has a 4-year tenure in the police department to actually be somebody who can train? Particularly if 1 or the 3 years is not in Berkeley. And then under that same thing, before it says participate in an internal oral interview selection process. They took and passed.
That's you don't
So
have
you
to
can
pass,
fail
you
the
just have to
interview. I mean, if
participate.
they say to me that is assumed that they passed, then leave it in. You have to participate and not pass? I mean, why take it out? I don't get that. So I had those two
Comments.
off the
Questions.
bat. Those are my first 2 comments. Then the removal aspect.
Which one's that?
I'm moving to 419.3.2.
Okay.
I'd like to have a little more clarification on what under involuntary 419.3.2D means. If the member is a subject employee of a personal complaint investigation, and due to the nature of the alleged misconduct, the integrity of the program or the member's service could be
Impugned.
impugned, sorry. What does that mean? Is that a bias-based policing? Is that use of force? Is that discourtesy? What is the allegation? And it's a complaint investigation it's only a complaint investigation, and if it's a complaint investigation, so there's one sign. What does that? What triggers that? One, and second, shouldn't it be? How do you make a determination? You know, police officers, even within the standards of training and allegations of misconduct, are innocent until proven guilty. So what this sounds to me is like, if you have an allegation against you, whatever that severity might be, which is not delineated here, you're off the program. So if somebody puts an allegation against you on something, does that mean that they're out of the FTO program, even if it's not a sustained allegation? It's not clear to me. Shouldn't the police officer have ability to have redress before they're taken out of a program? It says that they go into inactive, right? So I mean, so if the allegation is severe, then what are those allegations? What's the trigger allegation, right?
Right.
And then, does it have to be sustained or not sustained in order for them to? Is that a protective measure? Is the department saying, listen, there's an allegation against you against misconduct? For the time being, we're gonna inactivate you from the FTO program. It doesn't necessarily say that there. I'm assuming that that's what it is. So I mean, but then it doesn't say.
Then the last line of that section is, they may be removed only for cause and as a disposition of a sustained disciplinary investigation. So I think you're right. It looks like this allegation is made, there's investigation pending that. If it falls under the kind of misconduct that impugns the integrity of the program or the member's service.
It could be anything, right?
Well, no.
Go ahead.
What I am guessing this means is there's a legal term about certain crimes of moral turpitude. Yeah. In other words, that it's just inherently a bad thing. Yeah. Like being dishonest. Yeah. As opposed to, I didn't follow the procedure for. I didn't put the rifle back in the public safety building for whatever reason. That's a violation of policy, but it's not one that calls your integrity into question necessarily, depending on the circumstances.
You were arrested for public urination.
That's pretty bad.
But
yeah,
I mean,
you arrived drunk on the job. That's
but that's right? But it's a personal investigation, so it doesn't necessarily say that it's an alleged investigation by a member of the community. So I gotta know.
No, it could be internal. Personnel
that's right.
Complaint investigation could be internal or external.
So I think what I'm looking for is to be walked through that process, because I don't know. I mean, if it's discourtesy, they're saying that any and all allegations alleged of any severity at all, because they may or may not impugn the department, are going to trigger an inactive designation from the FTO program.
I don't read it that way. For instance, an allegation of discourtesy, the kind that you guys see all the time in our BOIs, I would say that is not the kind of allegation that impugns the integrity of the program. But I think it would be helpful to get more clarification from the department.
The reason why this is harping in, I just had this conversation with NACO today about the New York report, which there will be a separate panel on that only, Kathy, because of the use of profanity or use of a slur, but it's not causing a detention. So I mean, it's considered discourtesy. So what's really discourtesy, and it should not be there. I mean, because if you're treating someone, and if you're discourteous to a member of the community, whether you use anything that could be construed to be racial or demeaning or biased, whether that is a perfect example for someone to, well, if my FTO did it, then I should do it as well. So I just want to know what's a lower level, what's a higher level?
Sure.
I mean, and is the investigation itself works as a way for the police officer to appeal the inactive, or they understand, you know, hey, well, this is going on, I'm no longer training, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, so what does that trigger in terms of an allegation? Any allegation, or what's a baseline?
Mm-hmm.
It's what I like to
Okay,
know.
I think that's a good question.
That's all I had here.
The only other one I have is on, I guess I'd put it under, well, what is it, 419.5419.6, required training.
That's right.
It's on page 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like, if I can read this right, it went from 10 weeks to 16 weeks. Am I reading that right?
Or 160 weeks.
No, I think
No,
it's across
there's
to
a underline, yeah,
I think it's to the 0, or the O, 0.
right,
I think it's 16.
right.
But in either case, it's quite a jump.
It's only 4
between 10
months,
and
right?
16 even. And so I was interested in why that was necessary, and, you know, what they were finding, and, you know, is it that there's new strategies or new something or other that, the old officers didn't get trained in somehow, that now they're getting trained for 6 more weeks? That's one thing, and the other is just a little bit about the curriculum for the training. It's like if they had like a week, you know, a list of kind of things they do every week.
The manual?
That would be helpful.
It's not under the fence, yeah, it says that it's internal, that's what she said, right?
I'm sorry, what'd you say, George?
The last time we were talking, we asked what's a checklist for this. This is the question that happened last week, right? We talked to her about how does it look like.
Yeah.
I mean, she said, well, every day they get evaluated, their signatures that
right.
go in.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and they sit down, and this goes up the chain of command to the sergeant and lieutenant, to the captain. So I mean, so we were told that there was an internal kind of like manual paperwork.
Mhm.
It's not outlined here.
Well, there's a whole manual, I believe.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't wanna
Right?
read the manual
Yeah.
or anything like that, but it would see if they had a summary of, you know, by week kind of things they do or something, that'd be good. But at least to explain why the extra 6 weeks is needed and
Okay.
what was
Mhm.
deficient in the current program.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more general orders now, right?
Right, maybe it wasn't so much a deficiency as in a need to cover more.
And post training now, there's
Well,
more
it could
post
be,
trainers
if
are
there's more
required.
requirements.
Yeah, more
Ex-
requirements.
By
Exactly,
law, yeah.
and that's right,
Okay.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
My question was on the same one. I mean, I need to, I don't know what the 11 CCR 1005 Alpha Bravo means. I don't know what the exception. A lateral officer may be exempt from the field training program requirement if the officer qualifies for an exemption as provided in next. I don't know what that is. I
Something,
can certainly
LCCR,
Google
state
it.
code.
California, it's the California Code of Regulations, I
That's
could
right.
not tell you what it is.
Yeah, well,
So it would be a state something.
yeah. Where are you? Minimum startups for training, California code, yeah. Peace officer selection, California Code of Regulations. That's what it is.
Okay.
But it also has infection control there.
What
So
if-
I guess it's a big, 1005 is a huge, it's a huge.
I wonder if it's the whole post.
Yeah, of different things, right? There's a, what else would be this? Huh. There's 4 different reasons.
There's what?
While the officer's assignment remains custodial related, or if the officers employing department does not provide general law enforcement uniform patrol services, and the department has been granted an exception as specified regulations 1004, which we'll have to look for why that is, or if the officer is a lateral entry officer possessing a post-basic certificate and who has either completed a post-approved field training program, which is different than the training program of the department, right? Or 1 year previous experience performing general law enforcement uniform patrol duties. Or if the officer was a level 1 reserve and is appointed to a full-time peace officer position within the same department. So I guess it revolves around non-custodial related. It's not law enforcement uniform patrol services. The person has completed a previous post-approved field training program, or was a reserve officer that moved into full-time. Those are maybe the 4 guidelines. So the
Yeah,
question
these
remains,
are all the
how-
post regulations.
yeah. So the question will remain to them is how often is that? Is the FTO training in Berkeley post-approved, or is that a different one? I don't know that, right? What do you think, Ms. Lee? Is it the same one?
I don't know.
Yeah, neither do
I mean, I would think so.
yeah. Which goes back to my other question, right? 1 year and 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Hey, listen, it only takes 3 years to be able to teach someone because your qualifications are just so good at your job. I hear you. But that should be the norm, or should that be in cases in which a police officer exhibits a great performance evaluations, a 3-year, a 4-year minimum might be way to a 3-year period. Is that what they did it, right?
Right. It'd be interesting to know whether that change was brought about because of a shortage, and while the preference would be for officers with more experience, in certain cases, they may just have to go to 3-year officers with 3 years of experience.
But it does have some, it does have some, at the end, Terry talks about daily training performance, he talks about evaluations, end-of-phase evaluations, it talks about a confidential performance evaluation by the trainee of the FTO, so there's a 360 evaluation here as well. So I mean, I'm okay with that. I just had, my only question was based on the, why change the, that's all I had,
Right.
Terry. You had, the other question with you was
I'm okay with the questions, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're good with it with those questions, and they're just more clarification, not anything else. Things you learned that you never thought you learned. 420, which should be marijuana enabling
Nope.
ordinance, not foot pursuits.
No, they changed it.
But if it says 420, I almost read
It
food
used to be
food pursuits. As in munchies.
Are you hungry?
No, I'm just keeping the audience entertained.
Okay.
420 food pursuits.
I had some should shall things. One is on 427.3, first page.
Yes, sir.
Safety of the department members and the public should be the primary consideration when determining whether a foot pursuit should be initiated, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that should be, the first one should be a shall. The second one could be a should, but the first one should be a shall, right?
Right.
Do you know where we're at, Ms. Lee?
Yep.
And, the other one, at first in the last paragraph there, I circled that should, in the third line.
Which
Says-
word, Terry?
On first page, last paragraph.
if circumstances permit,
Yeah.
okay?
And then it goes on, but the second sentence says, in deciding whether to initiate or continue a foot pursuit, an officer should continuously consider blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, maybe that should be a shall. But I kind of left it as a possible. But if I look over at, page 4, look at 427, 5.3. They have a similar paragraph there on the bottom of the first paragraph. It says, the last sentence, the supervisor shall continuously assess the situation in order to ensure blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because I think that the supervisor has a 360 view of what's
Yeah.
happening, but if you're in a pursuit, a single police officer might just be caught up in it might not be reasonable for that person to stop and continuously assess. But the supervisor who should respond, right, has the ability to make the determination. But if you're in it, you're on it, and if you start thinking, should I be on it, you might lose the object of the pursuit. So that's what the only shell that I have was the top one.
Which one?
Yeah, well, it seems like.
I'm sorry.
The same one you have.
Oh, the same one, okay.
On the first one, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's kind of a situation where you've got a lot of things going on, you've got to think about a lot of things and make a lot of decisions. A foot pursuit can be dangerous to people. And so that's why I thought, well, okay, well, it's important enough. You just can't sort of discount it. You always got to keep in the back of your mind, do I really need to continue this, or should I continue it? So that's why I thought possibly we ought to put it on the first page as a shall. It's gotta be in the back of the person's mind, right? If you're in a foot pursuit, you've got to have the safety of the public and yourself and the other officers or whatever in mind in order to continue pursuing it. If you don't, then you're doing the wrong thing, right? Because if you're sort of tunnel vision about I'm going to get the guy and forgetting all the other stuff, then that's not an appropriate place to be in your mind, I don't think.
But it gives the police officer two other directions, right? It says just because there's criminal behavior doesn't mean that you have to go on it.
No, it gives them options.
And the third option that it gives him or her, is to say, if you choose not to, you will not be criticized or go under the penalty.
That's fair, but this is presuming on the first page there that they're in it, right?
But that's what I think.
Deciding whether to initiate or continue. So I get the initiate part, but I'm thinking of the continue. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a big deal, kind of a cut or dry issue. But
Yeah, because I think that it showed at the beginning, Terry tells them that if you take all this into consideration and you trigger the foot pursuit, but you have to take consideration the danger to yourself and the public.
Mhm.
If once you do that, you think that you want to do it, then you have to do that before you go, okay, I'm going to do this. And because that was your first evaluation process, how would this endanger me and somebody else? And because there's notification to a supervisor, there's a call for backup here. So the call for backup minimizes the,
I'm okay with that. Let's go on.
but 427.3, that first shell,
Yeah.
we're
Okay,
pretty much.
that's the only one. Okay.
We're pretty much in that one.
And
Okay.
page 3.
Page 3.
427, 5.1.
Yes, sir.
Down 1, 2, 3 or 4 paragraphs, it says absent extenuating circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on, the second sentence is what I'm focused on. It says, if the foot pursuit is discontinued for any reasons, immediate efforts for containment should be established and alternatives considered based upon the circumstances and available resources. So, the word containment
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's.
didn't feel right to me.
I just know what it means.
Yeah, I mean, I presume it's eventually we're gonna get the guy, and what are the other strategies to contain him?
But
'Cause
does
they
that,
stop the
but,
pursuit.
because I mean, I watch many police shows, I guess. But I mean, if you think that the person turned left on Addison, and you know there's another police officer in eastern North Addison, will you stop the pursuit and you contain it? So if he goes to the left, there's a police officer, if he's going to the right, if you go up, is that what he means? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
if-
well, I think that'd be good to find out.
yeah, I don't know what it means. We don't know what the
It's
containment
clear.
means.
Okay.
It's clear.
Okay.
And, that was all I had.
Yeah. Those were the same ones as previously. We have,
Okay.
11 minutes, 6 minutes
Go
to
on.
public comment. You wanna
I
stay on
would-
421 is big,
Yeah, I would,
because it's
yeah,
privacy issues.
I would suggest
Yeah, I have
stopping here.
a few questions on that, but, how about
For-
424?
But, I mean, you have nothing, you have very minimal on 424? The, mobile data
424.
terminal use?
Yeah, it's a completely new policy.
Yeah.
Just, you have a couple minutes worth of comments?
It's completely what?
A completely new policy.
Yeah.
This is the screen that they use in a computer, in the system where they're driving. This is the computer system that they had, that they enter information, having to deal with,
Right.
With a lot of different things, right?
Yeah, just a few questions, I guess,
I have
on
one,
the
so
bottom
go ahead.
paragraph.
Which one, where are we?
Page 424, page 1, 424.4, bottom
Okay.
paragraph. Starts with, it is a violation.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but I'm on the sentence, the next sentence, it says members are required to log off the MDT or secure the MDT when it is unattended.
That way somebody else
No.
cannot come in and use it.
Pardon?
That way somebody cannot come in and use it.
No,
Like-
I understand the whole
Uh,
reason for it, I don't know what secure means.
To
Because,
log off.
we had this discussion on some other thing, and they were saying, well, it was at one of the terminals or something in the office. I think it was on the privacy policy.
Sure, yeah,
So
that's
it's like,
exactly what it was.
their argument was, well, because when somebody gets up from one of those terminals, they're supposed to log out or something, but then their argument was, well, they get up and they're just gonna go over there for a minute and talk to somebody or something like that. They need some flexibility so they're not going back and forth and logging in every 25 seconds or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was their argument there. And here, the question is, well, what does secure mean?
Does it mean locking the car? You have to
Locking the
log
car?
off. Does it
Yeah.
mean security equipment means locking the car?
You think that is what they mean by
That's what I
secure?
think, yeah, because if you're logging off, if you're logging off, but that's, yeah, cause if you stop somebody and you're gonna go back to your car to get the license, to get the driver's license so you can do a search on it,
Mm-hmm.
do you have to log off as you get out of the car? Do you lock the car as you go to engage with the person so people cannot get in your car and steal the car?
Mm-hmm.
So
So that's-
if that's the case, I presume that locking the car would be sufficient to say it's secure. Is that what we're assuming?
You can ask the question.
Yeah.
This is subcommittee meeting.
Oh.
Because, somebody
Yes.
can break my window, they can break a police car window.
Well, in the scenario he gave, they're gonna be right there. They get out of the car, they close the door and lock, they've stopped somebody, a vehicle
Yeah.
stopped,
And if
they're
they have
stopped, they get out of the
something
car and, okay, that's different. I'm talking about his
Well, I know,
scenario
once you get out of
is,
the car, you don't know where you're gonna go.
no, his scenario is he pulls somebody, the officer pulls somebody
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
and so now the officer gets out of the car to make
Right.
contact
Right.
with the detainee. He's gonna ask for license and registration and go back to the car,
Yeah,
should he have to log off in
Yeah.
that situation.
Do you think they lock the car when they do something?
But we can ask what secure means.
Yeah.
We can
Okay,
we know
we'll
what
ask.
logging off means.
What
Let's
does that
ask what
mean?
secure means.
Okay,
To an
I
officer,
mean, It could be
Alright.
that if you step out of the car and then you log off. Was that the only question?
That was, no, that was one, and then the other was,
424.6.2. That was in yours.
no, it was, it was on, 424.5, B and C. It says whenever the activity on B, it says whenever the activity or contact is initiated by voice, it should be documented by a dispatcher. And so I'm just wondering why that wasn't shall, but then I went down to the next one, it said whenever the activity or contact is not initiated by voice, the member shall document it. So it's like the operator doesn't have to,
But he does.
but the member does.
Yeah, so,
I don't know
Well,
if
it
that's-
depends on, I think it depends on what's going on at dispatch.
Well, but anyway, it's like, the member's gotta do it no matter what, they're saying you have to do this. And so I'm just wondering why they wouldn't say that with the dispatch, even if it's not right at the moment, right? There's a lot of things going on. So I'm presuming the member, if there's a lot of things going on with them, they're not gonna document it until later. But I
Right.
don't know about the dispatch, so
Right.
that was my question there.
so what is it if somebody what is it that if, well, let's talk about the food pursuit, right? What is it if you're looking at something and you go, charging a radio, you spiel out what you have to say to the dispatcher, I need backup. I mean, it's like, and you're going to do what you have to do, I mean, and if you know you're gonna document it sooner or later, why should that be a shall instead of a should? The only question that I had was on the bomb calls. Why, when investigating reports of possible bombs, members should not communicate? Why isn't that a shall? That was my only thing. Why isn't that a shall instead of, why is that a should instead of a shall?
Okay.
You know, they shouldn't communicate on those. It's suspected of closing frequency. Was
Okay.
that your only question?
Anyway, that was my only other thing right there.
Public
Okay.
comment.
Okay.
Thank you though.
Okay, thank you.
But that's good, thanks Jerry, but I mean, but could you forward any questions that you have on four
Yeah, I'll take a look
21
and see if
to
they're
Ms. Lee, right?
meaningful enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we can use those.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, thank you. We're easy didn't show up.
thank you,
Got a few
Terry.
done.
Maybe he forgot.
Easy. You're so forgiving.
Are we adjourned? I don't know.
For,
Oh,
huh?
Are we
public
adjourned?
comment?
We are adjourned, she doesn't want, 6:57.
Thank you.